Happy Halloween weekend to everyone who celebrates. And now it's time to put up the Christmas tree, get the Ariana Grande, Mariah Carey music going. I know some people are going to be irate that I put Ariana Grande above Mariah Carey, but in my opinion, hot take. But today we are not here. Okay, Matthew's going to get into that.
I was going to say, what are we here to debate exactly?
I mean, that's a debate. Maybe we'll do a side episode a later day. But I will say we are here to debate and talk about the premiere of Survivor UK. The buildup has been real. And this weekend, we got the first 2 episodes. And we've seen your comments on Twitter. There is a lot of hot takes. There's a lot of maybe not so hot takes, some very hot opinions. We will try to get to all of those in this episode, but I can't do it alone. You've already heard from one of my co-analysts today. Matthew is joining us here. And from the UK, giving us the perspective of someone across the pond to Matthew and myself, we are joined by Ollie. Ollie, do you guys ever get sick of hearing that phrase across the pond? Is that just a phrase? No. See, like
No.
for us, it's like y'all. I don't know. That drives me crazy. It's the y'all thing. But I mean, okay, so let's get into it, guys. Let's start with opinions about the first 2 episodes and how the series got kicked off. So I thought there were some positives. There were some negatives. There were 1 or 2 things that were super negatives to me. Let's go to Ollie first. Ollie, this is Survivor UK. So I feel like we have to start with you. Overall, and we'll get more in depth into some of the stuff we bring up here a little bit later in the show. But overall, what was your opinion on the first 2 episodes of Survivor UK?
Overall, it was good. I will say that overall it was good. I think the second episode was a lot more. I think the second episode was better than the first. I definitely think kind of the first episode was it was a soft opening. It was kind of introducing Survivor again to the public, which made sense. There was some things that I was like, we can do without, but I also know for context purposes, since it is the first one coming back, and this is something very new to a lot of the UK audience, they needed to be done. And then there are some things that definitely need to change. Immunity Idol.
Oh, that was one of the super big negatives. As he sips is it tea? Is it tea or coffee? What are we doing?
Tea. It's tea.
Okay, as he sips his tea. Matthew, add on to that. What did you think of the episodes when you first viewed them this past weekend?
Well, I think both of you said it best, that there definitely are pros and a couple of cons that we have to talk about today. I really want Survivor UK to be able to have a season 2. And I think by us talking about the episodes, of course, Ollie wants to be on Survivor at some point. And I think a lot of people in the UK want that adventure as well. So I think by us talking about what could have been done better, what we would like to see in the future, I think it's really important to talk about. So one thing I will say is that I did feel that the episodes lacked some sort of an energy. Now, Ollie, you brought up a really good point, that there was reason, which was we needed to sort of reestablish or reintroduce the game of Survivor. However, I still think that some energy could have been put in there with better music choices, I might say. I would also say, I think this opening deserved a giant, grand immunity challenge that was more of an obstacle course. I think that would have driven us a little bit more. But I know we're going to talk about everything more in order, but those were my initial thoughts.
And I want to remind everyone out there, if you are watching this live, you can jump into the chat. Give us your opinions. We call it our Ancient Voices chat. So get in there. Let us know what you thought about the first 2 episodes. I will get some housekeeping out of the way as well. I got to sit down with the first 2 castaways eliminated from Survivor UK. I'm going to keep the spoilers out for now, just letting you guys know there will be spoilers on this recap show, but you can go check those out on our channel or survivornowpodcast.com. We're going to try, when I post on social media, try not to spoil anything for you guys. I will let you know that I will post clips of who got eliminated and go more in detail about who got eliminated on social media, usually on Fridays. So just telling you that now for the future. Avoid our social media. Like, you don't have to avoid our social media is what I'm saying. We're going to try not to spoil anything until the next Friday. If I can
Randy
get
was
it.
saying, don't follow us.
What were you going to say, Ollie?
No, I was going to say I have to avoid them on a Thursday because I have to wait to watch the show. So on Thursdays, I'm like, Survivor now, I love you, just not on that day.
No, I feel that. I definitely feel that. Yeah, we're trying our best to post about it and still not spoil it for anybody, because I know a lot of people are able to catch the episodes right when they go live. So we're trying our best. But let's finally get into the episode here. And right ahead, like right at the start, I want to talk about the intro. I felt the intro was actually really good. I was like, okay, I like this build up. And Matthew, I know you brought up the music. I also thought the music could have been better in certain spots, but I thought the intro overall was really nice until, and this has been a major problem for Survivor UK at the beginning of the season here, spoilers. And I didn't like the live look aheads. Like, I mean, they went far into, like, we got that with Survivor 45, and I don't want to bring Survivor 45 up too much because this is a whole different show. But I will say I didn't like it when Survivor 45 did it, when they were talking about the castaways and showing us them at camp and stuff. I'm like, we don't need to see anything in the future. We don't need that. But I feel like Survivor UK, when they were doing this intro, they were showing really far in the future. And I was like, this is kind of, I mean, if you really pay attention, you can kind of see who goes far into this game and whatnot. Matthew, I'll go to you first about this. What did we think about the start of the game? You can bring in how they started on, you know, classic Survivor start where they started on the boat. What did you think about the start overall?
Well, I loved the moment with everyone walking in silhouette, boarding the ship. There was like a mystery to it. It was very intriguing. I was feeling very invited in. And I have to say, I agree with you, Randy, with that montage. I thought it was a mistake to show votes. I really thought, especially that. I thought the other stuff too, seeing Lenena win an immunity challenge, I thought, okay, you know, that's enough. Don't need to see more. But the fact that we actually saw votes being cast, I found was a little bit shocking. So I wasn't really a fan of that aspect of it. And then I will say, when we got onto the ship, I wish that we heard from a couple of more castaways in their confessionals. I know that we got Lawrence and Lee, both of them had confessionals right before the ship segment started. But I was kind of hoping for more. We cut to a close-up of this castaway who's looking off the ship, and then it cuts to their confessional saying, I'm here to win, or something like that. And we just didn't give me that energy. In fact, there was this like beat, there was this pause. It showed up a lower third telling us where we were in the world, and the music stopped, and then it didn't really start up again until until Joel entered. And I thought that it was an odd gap.
Ollie, anything to add on to that? Because we'll get to Joel as well in a second. That was actually the very next topic I was going to bring up. But like, the intro was good. It was like a classic Survivor. Welcome to Survivor. You know, everybody claps. But like Matthew said, it's the stuff that I think there's certain aspects that the UK are trying to do different, which I respect. You don't want to be the exact same as Survivor Australia or Survivor US. But in terms of showing the votes, that is something we've never seen. And I don't think it's anything we need to see again.
No. So I definitely think that is I think that is very much UK editing. Because with kind of the editing of UK shows, I saw it and I was like, yeah, that is classic UK editing. Like, they're showing things to like get you enticing to think like, oh, we've got to wait for that scene. Oh, we've got to wait for that moment. But I think the issue that they kind of didn't take into account, which for me, I was a little bit shocked with knowing who has been kind of on the production side and knowing that they have got a lot of like Survivor knowledge, seeing the votes, seeing certain parts, like especially the Lenena, like Matthew said, the Lenena winning, I was like, I'm now waiting for that. I now know that occurs. But I think with Survivor, they need to know that you don't need to show us that, because we don't want to know, because now we know that we're expecting Calaton to go to a tribal. Like, we're waiting for that now. So I don't think we needed that. But I think overall, that first scene was good. Like Matt said, the silhouettes I thought was perfect. I think the editing when they were doing the challenges, when you saw them competing, I thought that was good. It was just the certain things I didn't need because now I'm expecting it. And I think the Survivor fans were like, no, which I agree.
I mean, I'm just hoping it's something where like, okay, first episode, we're just kind of maybe over time we don't get as many like flash forwards throughout the entire season, and this is something that it was maybe just first episode. This is what you can expect. There's going to be votes. There's going to be challenges. Yeah. That's what I'm hoping moving forward. What did we think about Joel? Because I will share my opinion here and say I loved Joel. Yeah. I actually thought it was a breath of fresh air. I know everyone wants me to bring up the banana instance where we just got a moment where he's like, I can't remember exactly what he said, but no better time for a banana. And he just starts eating a banana. And then I want to get your guys' opinions on Joel first before we get into the narration, because that is another new aspect that we don't get on other Survivor, where it's almost like a nature documentary. And it's like, now we see Calaton struggling after going to the immunity challenge and losing. So Ollie, I'll go to you first here. What was your overall opinion on Joel and how he compares to Jeff and Jonathan?
Overall, I think Joel was a great host. I think he did do a really good job. Again, this is just personal preference. I could have done without the banana. I do think it was a little bit like, I was like, because the day before he had been on a TV show and he had actually mentioned he'd actually watched Australian version and then had watched a couple of the US versions. So like, I'm going to let everyone know Joel was prepared and Joel was excited. I think he did a really good job though, because I think the juxtaposition of how he was in certain areas, and I know we'll get to Tribal, I actually think he was really good in Tribal, but also in the challenges when he was talking to everyone, he knows, obviously he's British. He knows how to interact with like the British contestants. We will have a bit more tongue in cheek. We'll have a bit more we'll be able to have a bit more like banter in it. It may not come across serious, but there is still a seriousness to it. So I thought Joel did a great job. I'm proud of him. Well done.
Yeah, I would agree with you, Ollie. I think he did balance a fine line. What I will say is I did appreciate his presence. I did like his energy. There were certain things I thought the flake of pepper in episode 2. I think I don't know how I feel about type of joke on Survivor. I think Calaton, obviously, they didn't have much. And I think we should also talk about the marooning and how that all went down. But one thing that I will say about Joel is I do think that he is a great choice to host Survivor UK. I also think, as time passes, I think that he will find his role better as we move forward. And I will say, as a viewer, I would like to see him sort of take on a role of like more authority figure, more of an authority figure than a peer to the castaways. That's what was lacking for me.
Oh, go ahead, Ollie.
No, I just wanted to just give a bit more context onto Joel for kind of US people that don't know him. Joel he was a comedian. He started off as a comedian and then he became kind of like a Saturday night host. So he hosts our version of The Masked Singer, where it's kind of glitz and glamour and he has to have that kind of showboaty presence. So I think what he's learning to do with Survivor is knowing when to peel it back and knowing when it's appropriate, but also knowing that this isn't jazz hands showboating. It's serious time. And I think that will come with time.
That's what I was going to ask about, is like those certain moments, like the flinging of the pepper, the banana, kind of some of the moments he's joking with the castaways. Can it make the show feel a little bit less serious? Because that's something we don't get with Jonathan and especially Jeff really anymore, is it's just so serious. And I think that's why I liked it at first, because it's like, it's a breath of fresh air. And I laughed at the banana part, but like I said, but throughout the season, will it, if he continues making those jokes, will it make the show feel a little bit less serious?
And that's why I'm hoping it doesn't. I'm hoping he can find the balance of knowing when to put on a little bit of the joyousness that we do see in Survivor, but knowing when to have it back in serious. Because I think he out of the hosts, like when compared to Jeff and Jonathan, will have the best balance of being able to have the laugh and then also be serious.
Yeah, and I think Joel is going to be able to do this. And I think it's kind of exciting that we can experiment with like implementing humor into Survivor. The thing is, and Randy, you sort of touched on this, it felt low stakes to me, these first couple of episodes. And that is as a viewer. And I think obviously for the castaways, I'm sure it was incredibly high stakes. And I don't want this to be solely on Joel, but as we're just sort of talking about the humor in the episodes that we saw, as a viewer, I was waiting for a little bit more intensity. And I think Joel's role as host, that needs to be a part of it. And I thought his performance in Tribal Council, was really great when it came to putting in a little bit more intensity. And again, we'll talk about that music as there's one thing that I'm waiting for to talk about, but I think that there are different things that are happening on the production end that are making the game feel less intense than I'm sure it felt for the castaways.
Well, let's get into the marooning that you brought up, Matthew. We have a very, very classic Survivor kind of marooning here. Get everything you can, get it on the raft, jump in the water, go to the beach, and then we have one of the most classic challenges ever. Build this structure, set it on fire, and burn down the rope to get even more supplies. And at first, it was just whoever burns those supplies down gets everything they got on the boat and the bonus supplies, which was it a machete? I can't remember all. It was like really important stuff.
I think there was a couple of tarps, there was a saw, there was stuff to make fire.
Yeah. So it was like super. It's like you have the boat stuff like bananas and some, bamboo and stuff. And then you have that crate, which you really want. And we saw, and I got this in the exit interview, Lanina was so far behind Calaton. I mean, they said the camera didn't do it justice. They were miles behind. And somehow Lanina ended up coming back to win. And that's when Joel drops the hammer that not only do you get the stuff you got on the boat, not only do you get the crate, you also get all of their supplies as well, putting Lanina at such an advantage super early on in the game. And this isn't unheard of in the game of Survivor. We've seen this type of stuff before where one tribe starts out with a lot and another tribe starts out with nothing. It creates a very storybook underdog like storyline right off the bat. And I imagine that's what Survivor UK is playing for. They want to see that underdog story because it's such a great story that the viewers love to see. But Matthew, what did you think? Because you brought up the marooning, what did you think about the twist? And then the second twist of, you also get all of Calaton stuff as well.
Yeah, I thought that twist was rough. I'm not going to lie. And I think that added something to it. It did sound like during the instructions, I couldn't tell if it was placed after they had filmed, right? Like just for the edit of the episode. But Joel did say something like the losing tribe gets absolutely nothing. So I think I felt bad. Everyone did so much work to build their rafts with a bunch of supplies and get it to the shore. And you know what? I feel like if I had known, I feel like if I could convince people, maybe the better strategy would be let the other tribe collect all of the stuff from the ship. Let's just take the empty raft to shore and make sure that fire burns through that rope, because then we'll get whatever the other tribe put on their own raft. So this was tough. I felt absolutely terrible for Calaton.
Yeah.
Ollie, you had to feel gutted as well.
Yeah, I did. To be fair, I love the challenge because to me, it was classic Survivor. And when people have been like, explain Survivor to me, I can now just say the first challenge, what you see, like watch the first episode and the first challenge, that is classic Survivor. So that I did enjoy it. But yeah, I don't think he specified that. I think he just said, you get everything. And I think that's kind of like a very British way of say, you can then turn back and be like, well, I said you get everything. I just didn't specify. I'm not gonna lie. Do I think Lenena needed to have Calaton stuff as well? No. I feel like they had enough stuff anyway. But I just feel like it was so much of an advantage that I just didn't want them to then potentially be at such a disadvantage where it's like it's not even Survivor. But I don't think it was. Like they still they got a decent amount of stuff, but I think they could have just won their supplies and then just left Calatons there.
Yeah, I kind of wish they at least gave Calaton. I mean, what did Calaton get exactly? I'm trying to remember. Was there anything?
What was on their raft?
They had a lot of fruit.
No, I was saying like they didn't get what was on their raft, but what did Calaton go to tribe with? Did they just have like a pot, machete,
a pot, machete, and then basic
beans, though? Yeah,
they did have rice and beans.
Yeah, just a small ration.
Okay, see, it's at least not Survivor US where it's like you get absolutely nothing. Let's get into the tribes a little bit here, and there was a lot of getting to know, and we don't have to go through all of like this person says this person says this. So let's focus on Lenina first, because that was the first tribe that we got to see back at their beach. Ollie, I'll go to you first. What stood out to you? Who stood out to you? Or was there a specific moment you wanted to call out here?
No, so I feel like there was everything. We got backstories from Lee and Pegleg. We kind of saw the Australian Survivor thing where we get to see kind of those moments where they're in their real life. Things that stood out to me that I made notes. Christopher was everywhere. Like every scene, Christopher was everywhere.
Matthew loves that. You can see the smile. It's
everywhere. I thought they worked really well together, actually. I think, but that came from them having such a good momentum. They seem to work really well together. Like at the tribe in the first episode, they looked to be harmonious. And I really enjoyed Pegleg's kind of backstory. That's what really stood out for me. And just to confirm, Matthew, do you remember we were talking in the cast assessment about his necklace?
Mm-hmm.
It's a closed peg. Closed peg, cool. Peg leg. There you go.
Oh my gosh. Okay, that's clever. Matthew, what about you? What stood out from the Lenina tribe, or who stood out to you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad we talked about Christopher because he was socializing. He was talking to everyone. And not only that, but it seemed like everyone was feeling heard by Christopher. And that makes me think that he's at a really good spot. He clearly had this very optimistic, personable personality that he was, having fun on the camp with. He brought this nice energy to it. And we saw him talk to Lee, Doug, Sabrina, and Pegleg. So that is like a great number of people that he hit it off with on that first day. And I agree. I loved Pegleg's intro, especially because it was like the first time. Lee had a very impressive resume. And I think he talked a lot about the challenges and how it's going to be an asset to challenges in the game. Pegleg, I felt like gave me something like, hey, in my mind, I'm 21 and my mental resilience is going to get me to the end. And I'm like, oh, okay, great. Let's keep going on this track. Yeah. There's some strategy there. This is how I'm going to get to the end of this game. I really enjoyed that.
I will say, do not whine if you're on Pegleg's tribe. Do not even say a single thing about being hungry. That man lives up to the hype when he's like, look, I've got this Gen Z attitude, or did I say it right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm not here for the whining. Someone who stood out to me, and we'll get a little bit more into this throughout the episode. Lee is very competitive. I mean, like, I feel like Lee's going to be bringing the smack talk this season. I know we'll get into the smack talk when we get to the challenge, but I just feel like Lee is someone who's not afraid to show up and tell you how much you're sucking in these challenges and losing and stuff. Yeah. Not saying he's a bad guy. I'm just saying he's very competitive, and he gets that background from obviously boxing. Matthew, did you have something to add on to that?
I was just going to say, I don't know if Lee has figured out that people vote for the winner at the end of the game.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to see a little bit from him. It's very good television. Like, I just want to say
Amazing,
that right now.
yeah.
I was
Yeah.
enjoying watching it. And especially in episode 2 with that reward challenge, we have to talk about Lee too. So he definitely stood out. He's very competitive. He has a right to be, like, he's competitive for a living. So, I mean, it's going to be very interesting. But yes, I don't know if he has come to terms quite yet with the fact that people are going to have to vote to give him the $100,000 at the end.
He gets to the end and it's just like, I don't understand why you guys don't like me. Well, you literally ripped on me for winning a little thing of bananas or whatever. Let's get to Calaton now. The tribe, is it pronounced Calaton or is it pronounced Lulu? Because I mean, they're no, okay. That was not fair to Calaton. I'm sorry. Okay. So I want to bring up Shy here. I think I called him Shay in the exit interviews. I don't know if I got it corrected right. I think it's Shy. But Shy is rubbing people the wrong way right off the bat, kind of being a little bossy and telling people how to do stuff. What is our opinion? That's where I want to start, and then we'll get into the rest of the tribe here. What is our opinion on Shy? Because I think that's someone that you can use as a number. I've always been a fan. If no one gets along with that person doesn't have anywhere to go, bring him on and just push through them bossing you around. What do we think about the whole Shy situation that we got a lot of in these first couple of episodes?
Do you know what? I don't know what was bigger, his ego or those glasses in his backstory package. Like, do you know, I still love Shy. I am still rooting for him. But I definitely think and this is what confused me because I know that he is a fan. When he came in, and I think it was the fact that he came in and he kind of knew he had studied the game and he was a fan. So I think he kind of came in and was like, okay, I have this survivor knowledge. I'm going to use it. But I think because he came from a business background, he didn't realize it came across as, you do this, you should do this, and it came across bossy. I'm hoping he can adapt because I am rooting for him. Personally, I agree. I probably would have him as a number as long as he wasn't trying to bark out orders because...
Shy definitely stepped in as some sort of a delegator for Calaton. And I think something that really stuck out to me in his intro was the fact that he said that the early game of Survivor actually kind of scared him because you have to build those personal connections. And I found that to be very interesting and I was very intrigued by Shy. And I wish that we saw more of him in the edit because we only really saw like one side of Shy, and I think that it was a missed opportunity. That being said, I'm definitely paying attention to him because Survivor likes to do that thing where there's the odd one out in the beginning and then somehow they make it to the end. So I'm keeping my eyes on Shy especially, but we know that Jess is one of the ones who's most verbal in her confessionals about not getting on with Shy or just noticing that Shy is not getting on with others.
And I mean, Jess is someone as well that we can talk about from the Calaton Beach early on. She was struggling throughout this episode, kind of saying, she didn't expect it to be this hard. We saw her going through the emotions. So I'm hoping she gets that under control. My heart cannot take another Survivor player leaving. I can't. So I'm not too worried about it, but I did want to bring that up as well. Do we believe Shy did get a video package with those huge sunglasses and the very fancy like business office? I was like, man, this guy's living the life over here. Do we believe the people? I don't remember everyone who got a video package. You guys may in the first episode, but I
got a list.
Amazing. Do we believe those are the players? Do we think that's how Survivor UK is painting it with the edit? These are the people who are going to dominate the season and make it to the end.
I don't know because the people that got the packages, for me right now, I don't see I see a couple of them being big characters, but we'd have to wait and see. Because for me, obviously, the people that I wrote down that got kind of backstories and video passages were Lee, Pegleg, Lawrence, Shy, and Jess. I believe they were the 5 that got it on episode 1. Was there anyone else, Matt?
No, that's it.
No. And some of them I'm like, okay, yes, I get it, because like I understood why Lee got it, because I feel like Lee was a very big character. Same with Pegleg, same with Lawrence. Jess, I wasn't so sure about, because Jess is a very good narrator. And she actually got, because I've got there was another podcast that posted the
confessional account. Yeah.
Yeah. So I've just got that up, and she was joint first for the most confessionals in episode 1. She got 5. But when you look at the confessionals and you kind of proper analyze them, there wasn't anything kind of like of major merit in terms of like strategy or stuff. It's just kind of like her opinion. So it's whether or not they're kind of painting Jess to kind of be this narrator. I'm not sure yet, because as you said, she was very overwhelmed day 2. And I did get scared. I was like, please not another Hannah. I was like, please not another Hannah. But I think she's, I'm not sure yet. There is part of me that's like, she can surprise me. But then there's also part of me, because of other things that occurred in the first episode, Tribal, I'm not sure where she falls at the moment. So I've got to wait and see with her.
Yeah, with Jess, we don't quite know yet. Well, at least I should say I'm not quite sure how to think of Jess. Also, what I will say is that I think she is a wonderful window into the game for viewers at home, right? We need that person who says like, I don't know, how am I going to do this without my luxuries? This is so new. This is it, that out of world experience is needed, right? It's a great entryway. It's a very easy entryway for us as viewers to get in. Who's that?
I was gonna say live. It's a live show. We just got so my cats have passed away the past couple of years. We had 2 of them, so we just got a new kitten, and she is very lovable and loves to just climb around. So I guess I'll just do the rest of the show like this. Matthew, sorry to interrupt. I don't even know what to do now.
Does she have a name?
Yes. So her name is Trixie. And people on Spotify are probably going to be like, what the hell is he talking about? Okay, hold on. All right. So I'm going to move on to the next topic. And then once I get you guys talking, I'm going to remove Trixie from my back. But I also want to bring up the fact that who stood out to you in terms of your favorite early on in the episode? Because I have to say, right off the bat, someone who stood out to me that I didn't think I was going to be so crazy about is actually Nathan. Like, I really liked Nathan in these first 2 episodes, and that was someone in the pregame that I'm like, okay, big guy, he's going to be good at challenges. I don't think he's going to have the social game, and I still don't know if he is going to have it. But, man, this guy is a challenge beast, and I'm excited to see him this season. So I'm interested to hear early on in the game who really stood out to you guys? Because if you guys haven't checked out the cast assessment that Matthew and Ollie did, go check that out. It's still on our channel. And I know who you guys were big on, but did those people live up?
Matt?
Big fan of Nathan. Big fan of Nathan. I love Nathan in these first 2 episodes, especially like you said, during those challenges. But I think Nathan has shown that he has the social game as well. I love seeing his interactions with people. I know we're going to talk more about the immunity challenge when we get there, but I just want to say right now, he's a fitness instructor, yes?
Yeah.
I would love to sign up for one of his classes. I am so jealous of his clients because the way that he supported his team in that immunity challenge, the way when, who was next to him? It was Leilani,
Shai.
the way
Leilani
needed.
Yeah, he doesn't even complain or anything. Like, as soon as she needed the drop, he's like, hand it over, give it to me.
He's so supportive and doesn't make her feel bad for doing it too. So I'm really enjoying Nathan this season, but I'll pass it on to Ollie to hear about your favorites too.
Yeah, well, I definitely think that Nathan, in these first 2 episodes, they've definitely edited him, and he's kind of clearly become almost the leader of Peloton. So that will be interesting to see, because I know we will see later on when we discuss episode 1 that he did clearly have an impact. Tanuke, I'm always going to stand Tanuke. I thought she did really well. I think she was in such a good spot because she clearly was talking to everyone. Again, I think one person that really did stand out from Calaton in episode 1 was Jess. But I think that is just because she had like in both episodes, but that I think that is also because she had so many confessionals that we were always seeing her point of view. In terms of Lenena, people that stood out, Pegleg. Like, I think Pegleg stood out a lot. I think Doug, but I think Doug stood out more episode 2 than episode 1. Because I feel like it's weird. There are people that I feel like have been showcased, but they've been showcased out of like not in confessional, if that makes sense. This was my one weird thing about the editing. Some people some people have gotten loads of confessionals, but then screen time they haven't got a lot of. And then some people have got a lot of screen time and then like no confessionals. So there is some confusion there on my end, but overall I think the people that I've mentioned were the ones that stood out.
I love you brought up Tanuki. I love her energy. Like, and I knew going into this season she was going to be a really, really positive person. And Matthew, I don't know what it is. I didn't think you would like Nathan as much as I did. I don't know why. But I knew I was such a big fan of Nathan, and going on to this podcast, preparing to say that I'm a big fan of him, I'm like, why do I feel like Matthew's going to disagree with me? So I know you're like, I don't know how to take that. I don't know. It was just a vision that I had, I guess. Let's get to the immunity challenge. What did we think of the first challenge? I know we had the reward challenge early on, but what did we think about the first immunity challenge here? I'll hand it to you guys first. Ollie, go ahead.
I mean, it was a classic Australian Survivor challenge. My brain's trying to remember if we've ever had it on US version. But I know there's been so many iterations on Australia, so I know it was from that. I kind of agree with what Matt said really early on. I think for a first challenge, I would have loved to have seen an obstacle with like a puzzle at the end. Like, yeah, classic. But I think overall it was a good challenge. I think a lot of what people don't realize, they were holding, and I remember Joel, because I rewatched this first episode this morning, they were holding 22.5 kilograms. Mm-hmm. That's a suitcase. Like, they were each of them were holding a suitcase. I know in other places they've done their like a percentage of their body weight. I know that's what they do in Australia. So this was like a pure strength endurance challenge. So props to all of them. Like even Leilani, because that must have just been her entire weight, because she's so tiny. And when everyone's like, oh, she's struggling, she's so weak, I'm like, no, she's currently trying to pull up into the air an entire suitcase of sand. Like, yes, she's going to struggle because, like, and there's a reason Nathan's not, because he's literally like the Hulk. So from remembering that part, I was like, no, there is reason why some people may fare better than others, because there is this pure kind of strength element. Overall, I think the challenge was really good. There was some taunting that I know if I was on the receiving end, someone would have been told to F off.
I was wondering that. I'm like, wow, they are being super nice for like all this taunting.
If I was on Calaton, I would have told Lee to shut the up. But also in the same breath, because I know in that challenge, I would have just need to have hyper-focused and just been in my own zone. If I was on Lenena, I would have told Sabs to shut
when she kept like, who was it? I think I can't remember.
It was Rach.
I was about to say it might have been Rach. When she was like, it almost makes it harder. I was thinking the exact same thing. I would be like, Sabs, thank you, but like, shut it. Like, I need to focus on this. Matthew, what did you think overall? Because I love this type of challenge. I've always been a massive fan of challenges that like the tribe as a whole has to work together. If someone falls behind, pick up their weight. I love those types of challenges.
Oh, it's a great challenge, but I don't think it was a first episode premiere introduction to Survivor type of challenge. It didn't have that same energy. Ollie mentioned everyone had the same weight across the board. I'm in the camp that was a little bit unfair, and just in my opinion, I think it didn't give everyone an equal opportunity to show their own strengths. That being said, it was an entertaining version of the challenge enough, right? Once we look past those other issues. But again, just calling out the way Leilani passed to Nathan. I also know that comes up again in deliberation about who's going to go home. This was really interesting. We have to flag that Ashley, we don't know what the injury was, but I'm going to assume that it like scraped her or cut her hand.
I was thinking like rope burn or something.
Yeah.
That becomes a through line.
Yeah. And I didn't think it was that serious. Like when the challenge was going on, and that becomes a major catalyst for the next couple of episodes.
Yeah. I mean, they didn't really edit it to be that way.
I remember someone, I don't know who it was, someone was shouting, once they had won, I do remember someone, because Ashley was like, look at my hand.
They're like, go
Classic
see
British
medical.
thing. Yeah. Someone said that, and I was like, that is such a British thing. Like, look at my war wound. That was, to me, I did enjoy that part of Ashley, because I was like, that is so British. Like, look at how hard we worked. Look at my injury.
Wait, can we talk about? Oh yeah, go ahead, Randy.
I was just gonna say, I will add on to the Nathan stuff that you said. This is the moment I became a fan of Nathan. I think it's just like, and I don't want to loop all challenge beasts into the same kind of round table here, but I feel like with challenge beasts, a lot of times you look at someone like Lee, very confident in their abilities. They are like, look, I can do this. I got it. Nathan is so supportive as like a challenge beast. He never complained. And throughout the entire challenge, he was just like, he wasn't barking at other people. He was encouraging them. And I think he gets that from his personal training background of being like, you got this. This is how you need to do it. He never got frustrated when he saw other people struggling. He's just like, come on, guys, we got this. And a big catalyst for me is, if I use that properly, I think I did. A big thing for me is the fact when they lost the challenge. We see a lot of times people who feel like they're doing most of the work, they get super frustrated and they're like, we lose again or whatever. Nathan didn't do that. From what I see, he didn't do that whatsoever. So he just seems, it's going to be interesting to see if like he keeps really doing well in these challenges, if he eventually does get frustrated. But for the most part, like he seems like all around he cares more about the team than his own personal glory, which I think is a massive thing from his side of things. Matthew, you had something to add on?
Well, it was also going to be one of my favorite moments in the challenge was not only when Nathan took a hold of the barrel for Leilani, but also when he basically had to talk Shai into feeling confident enough to take on the barrel when he needed the support. And I thought that was such an interesting moment. I know they talk about it at Tribal Council too, just they kind of celebrate that moment together and how they were able to pass it back and forth. And we saw, I think this was really nice. Shai was like, I don't want to take it. You know, like Shai was really,
he said, I can't do it. I can't do it.
He said, I can't do it. And then we saw later in the challenge, it was so cool to see the two of them like, Shai knew he can do it at that point. Yeah. And it was great to see them sort of pass it on. I thought that was really special.
Go ahead, Ollie. Sorry.
No, I was just going to add on to that saying, I think the amazing thing that Nathan showcased was how simple it is to communicate in a challenge like that. But also sports, like that is to me, when I saw what he was doing, it was sportsmanship. Because he didn't get annoyed. He didn't just throw a tantrum. He was like, guys, get in. Well done, other team. Let's all support each other. Like, to me, that was pure sportsmanship. So well done to him.
And let's talk about, I know there's a giant cloud hanging over everyone's head from the art department. But before we get to that, let's talk about how the challenge ended, because this really sets up the strategy for the rest of the episode, where Richard is holding, it's kind of passing back and forth between him and Matthew. Matthew hands it back and we see him struggling, and then he just drops both of them, throws his hands up in the air. So Richard did tell me that he threw his hands up in the air to keep himself from falling back. He was losing one, and it was kind of like it's something, just a mindset thing where instinct, that was the word I'm looking for. It was instinct. He was losing one, so his hand was going to go help out the other hand, and then he was losing that one, and then he just threw his hands up to keep his balance. It did look like he just threw them both down.
Yeah.
It did look like that. Gentlemen, what did we think about this? Does the tribe have a reason to be as frustrated as they were? Because I will say, and I brought this up in the interview as well, I didn't know why they weren't passing. It was just Matthew Richard. I'm like, there's another person you could be passing this to. And if they can't do it, then drop out and just do it with the big guys or whatever you do or whatever you need to do. But I'm like, it doesn't just have to go back and forth. It can be like a cycle thing where you're using all three people in a line.
Yeah.
So I thought it was a little unfair to put all the blame on Richard.
Yeah, I think they definitely could have, because I know that right at the end was, on the other end was Lawrence and Tanuke. So, and I know Lawrence was sat there being like, I'm chilled. Like, get me a gin and tonic. Like, he was loving life. So I think they could have easily kind of done it that everyone just passed one. So then Lawrence got an extra one just to relieve some things. But yeah, it's tough because it does look like he kind of just went. So I think technically he did release both of them, and it was a reason why they lost the challenge. So I do think in that respect, he at least would have had to have had some heat on him. Whether it was all the heat, he still should have had some heat.
Matthew, what do you think?
Appearance is everything, right? And I think that it was unfortunate that it kind of fell onto Richard. Maybe I think something that might have been better is if he knew he was going to drop, I might have suggested go and try to pass it to Matthew so that it looks like it happens mid-pass, so that it doesn't feel all on Richard for, I mean, let's face it, the motion, regardless of reason, the motion looked like I'm dropping out. Yeah. And I think that's what the tribe sort of caught on to.
I will add, I forgot to say it earlier. The only thing I did have a problem with this immunity challenge is it was first tribe to drop lost. I would like it go as long as you can. I would have loved to see like Nathan versus Lee, and they're both trying to hold like 4 or 5 barrels with like their one, or if they can do that, I would love to see it. But let's get to, before we move on to the strategy and tribal council, the last thing about this challenge, let's talk about this immunity idol. Ollie, stay with me here. It is gorgeous. It is a gorgeous immunity idol. I think it's one of the best I've ever seen.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I love this immunity idol, and I don't care that it's ugly. I just love it.
You couldn't pay me to make it. I'll say that. I couldn't do that.
I can smell both of your BSs from across the pond. You're telling me that was nice.
I don't know. I said it was ugly. I laughed every time I saw that thing. You know what is cool about it is I think the pedestal really helps with the look of it, because it kind of like slides into the pedestal. But it's like, it was like a log that decided to go to Coachella. It was just like, all right, let me just like paste some jewelry on, and I can't. Whoever did decide to design it that way, thank you, because it really makes me happy.
It's gonna be remembered. My favorite part is they showed Lawrence's face to the idol, which was like, oh, like they showed that. I'm like, editing team, you're not helping out. Like, you're supposed to show someone, be like, yeah, but they showed Lawrence just.
That was probably the best reaction, because let alone my reaction would have been.
Okay, like I agree with Matthew. It's funny. I just don't see how that gets through, knowing the production side of things, knowing how many checks they do. They have to be going. I'm at a loss for words. They have to be going for like ancient, this is what an idol would actually be like if there were these like tribes battling it out or something like that. Like it would be a dolled up piece of wood or something. That's the only thinking I have. Like maybe they think anything else would be too grand and it wouldn't get the outdoorsiness of it all. I don't know what it is, but it literally, someone said on Twitter, it looks like they found a piece of driftwood on the beach and they stapled a few like props on it.
Yep.
And they called it an idol.
It's going to end up in the fire at some point. Like it's going to get burned because someone is going to think they're not going to see the sparkly side of it in the dark. And they're going to think, oh, we need a log for the fire. So like,
can we please hope they do that? That would be
yes,
an all-time moment. And why can I say, man, I just want to, can we predict who that's going to be? I'm trying.
Who throws it in the fire?
Yeah.
Jess.
I was.
Do you know what? I feel like it'd be a perfect Jess moment. But the only saving grace I have about that idol, I'm not even gonna call that thing, would be is if they just purposely in future seasons make it even worse. They just continue to make like bad ones as a joke. That'd be the only redeeming fact.
Eventually, Survivor UK 9, all it is just a rock.
No, do you know what it is?
Skipping stuff.
It's just a stick.
Here's your idol. Oh man. All right, let's get to, we spent a lot of time on the immunity challenge, but I felt like it was the first challenge of Survivor UK, so we had to talk a lot about it.
Of course.
Let's get into the strategy. We'll mix in the strategy and what takes place at Tribal Council. So Richard ends up being the first one eliminated from Survivor UK. His name was being thrown out because of his performance in the challenge. Leilani was also, her name was also being thrown out as someone like, if we need to keep the tribe strong, we could get rid of Leilani. So a couple things here. Voting parchments are huge. Like the voting pieces of paper, they're massive. And correct me if I'm wrong, Matthew, is this where the music happens that you want to talk about? Because I did put it in my notes. Richard had, I believe, 4 or 5 votes against him. It might have been 4 and like 1 for Leilani. And then they built up like this whole music about who, the first person eliminated from Survivor, Richard. And I was like, we knew it was going to be Richard.
Yeah, with the way the numbers were, it wasn't like Richard should have already been like up and ready to go already. Like it was very obvious because I think they already he already had the majority of the votes before that music came in. It was actually with Lawrence's intro when they played like a top 100
Old Town
song.
Road.
Yeah, they played Old Town Road. And here's the thing, okay? When we're looking at Survivor, right, we're just going to take a quick little detour here. And yes, Donna in the chat, I totally agree with you about those voting papers. They looked like they were all drowned before they were read. With the thing with playing that top 100 music is I think that it takes away from how separate the game is supposed to feel from real life. And when you start inputting things that we hear on a daily basis on the radio or on our liked playlist songs, it makes it feel closer to us when I don't think Survivor should feel that way. I feel like Survivor should feel completely separated from the world as we know it. That's my 2 cents.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think to give at least that credit to Tribal, I think the music for Tribal was a lot stronger because you got the ambience and you got kind of the seriousness. Whereas when it came to Camp Life, there was the music didn't set us up for what we really wanted, which was seeing the social dynamics, seeing any strategy that was going to happen. Going back to, I agree with the voting parchments. They were very they were very thin. But also just going back to the strategy of why it was the votes. I think the only reason Richard got the majority of the votes was because of Nathan. Nathan was the one that pushed him because I think it was Shy. I think definitely Shy was on the chopping block. Because,
yes, he was. I knew I was forgetting someone. Thank you.
Shy was on the chopping block and it was between him and Leilani, but I think a lot of people chose Shy due to the fact that he was rubbing people the wrong way in at camp. And I think to Jess's, like, I think Jess saved Leilani in the sense of she was like, well, there's something that Leilani can do later that, you know, we may need her for, because we all have different strengths. Again, Jess being the voice of reason, Jess being the narrator. But I definitely think it was then Nathan was like, well, I don't want to vote for Shy because we literally both just did so well in that immunity challenge. And I think it almost felt like Nathan had to look out for Shy because it was like, we just done this amazing teamwork together. I'm not just going to throw that away. Like, that feels wrong to me. So I think that's where it all led to. But I also agree with you, Randy, on the build up for the votes, because it was one Shy, one Leilani, and then like it was for Richard, and I was like, I have no idea who's about to be the next person. Clearly, I was like, none of us know.
The only reason I could kind of understand it is this is the first episode of the reboot of Survivor UK, and a big thing for them is getting people interested. So like for Survivor heads like us, it's like, why are we building this up? We know it's going to be Richard, but if they're trying to get new people into it, I could see them building that up, because the new person wouldn't be like, oh, who's it going to be?
Yeah.
You know, they're just kind of watching it for what it is.
I am also now trying to think back. I do feel like that is something they do on Australian Survivor. So again, I feel like that is a Australian Survivor influence, but I could be wrong. I need to think about that one.
If it comes down to Survivor UK mirroring Survivor Australia or Survivor US, I think we all know the answer that we're going to give them, which one they should model currently. But yeah, so it was unfortunate to see Richard go here. But we still got a whole nother episode to talk about. Episode 2. Episode 1 was just a lot of buildup, a lot of introductions. We're going to take a really quick break. When we come back, we will get into episode 2. We'll be right back, guys.
What's up, guys? I'm Todd Herzog, the winner of Survivor China, and I want to welcome you to Todd's Pop Shop. Here, me and my husband Jess, we custom make Funko Pops. We'll make literally anybody or anything you could imagine. But being that we're here listening to the Survivor Now podcast, I'm assuming you're all Survivor fans. So take a look at these. Some custom Funkos of your favorite Survivor winners, Sandra and Yule. Or how about Big Brother fans? Suri Goddess herself playing the game of Big Brother. You can also get her in Survivor form. Or maybe yourself with your favorite buff and a torch playing the game. But even better, get yourself with your favorite player like Nora here with Ozzy. And since you're listening to the Survivor Now podcast, if you mention this ad, you will get $10 off your first order and free shipping. All season long, Survivor 45 should be a good one. Mention this ad, $10 off and free shipping. I'll be watching too, still a diehard fan to this day. Hit me up on Instagram, Todd's Pop Shop, or toddspopshop@gmail.com, or on Facebook, and I will see you soon.
Todd will make literally anything. So if you are a fan of a Nathan or a Jess, or maybe even the host himself, Joel, just hit up Todd and he will make you guys a wonderful pop figure. I have one back here of my favorite Survivor castaway ever, Cochran. So, and I plan on getting a lot more. So let's get into episode 2. And the first thing I want to talk about, I don't think we talked about this enough when speaking about episode 1, and we see it more here in episode 2. And this is when I realized this is something Survivor UK is going to do. And that is the narration from Joel throughout, where while we're going to the camp, he's kind of giving you a background of what's happening. I think I'm okay with it. I think correct me if I'm wrong, Ollie. I've seen some other UK reality shows, competition shows in the past. This is a common thing that is done. I think I can get over it. It's not my favorite thing, but it also doesn't ruin the episode for me. Matthew, as a fellow American, what do you think about how the UK is handling the narration with Survivor?
Well, I don't think it's necessary. And I hope that, well, honestly, what it kind of seemed like to me was it was a bit of a Band-Aid to connect scenes to each other. And I think there are different ways that we could do it, right? In other versions of Survivor, we get like notions of the passage of time with the sun moving or something. We got a couple of things. We got a couple of waves crashing, a couple of crabs here and there on the beach. But the thing with, like you said it best, Randy, is that it reminds me of other shows. And I feel like Survivor should have its own unique feel to it. Again, it goes back to what I've been saying about like making this feel kind of small scale.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a UK thing. I know it was a UK thing. I also think it was done because of the fact that it's a reboot and we need people to understand. We need the UK public to understand the gist and the essence of Survivor. So I'm okay with it for the first couple of episodes so people can understand what's going on. I think if they do a swap, little narration there to kind of get people to understand. Same with merge. After that, I don't need it. And that's coming from a Brit. I don't need it because I don't know, just as a Survivor fan, it might just be I already know of it. But I also think, kind of to what Matthew says, it's not needed for the show.
I just really hope, I would rather take the narration all season than them doing an entire episode recapping the season, which we used to saw in Classic Survivor, where they would take like an episode off and they would be like, let's just look back on the season as a whole before the finale. And I never liked that, especially back then when like DVR and streaming was less of a thing. So you wait all week for a Survivor episode, and then it finally comes on and it's just everything you've already been watching all season. And it just felt like a waste of a Survivor episode. I hope they don't do that. If it's one or the other, I'll choose these little narration passages. We get Nathan and Tanuka talking about strategy. And then I felt like this was very poorly done. Shai walks up and I hate it when castaways do this. They just stop. Yeah. They just stop communicating. I mean, like, change it up about something. Say like, so that's why I think that moment in my life meant a lot to me. Like, get emotional or something like that. Or just like, it was so obvious. And if I was Shai, I would just stop and be like, is there something going on here? Like,
I think Shai was like that. I think Shai.
Remind me. I thought he kept walking.
He kind of slowed down a little bit, like during it. Like, I think it felt very awkward. Again, I don't want to speak for Shai or his experience during that portion. But it did kind of seem like he did kind of slow down his pace a little bit to try to be like, okay, you know, like what?
They were just standing there looking at each other when he like walked by. They just stopped, and it was not the best gameplay there. Calaton finally gets fired. That was cool to see. And then we go to Lanina, and they are feeling like over the moon. Great, they can't be stopped. They're placing baits. They're placing bets on who got eliminated, and they just feel like they've got the whole world in their hands. At this point in the episode, did you think this was foreshadowing that Lanina might be the tribe that ends up going to tribal council next?
Yes, because they got their egos. They let their egos get in the way. Because they were literally like, oh, whoever gets it right can have a coconut. I'm like, no, keep the coconuts. Like, we need them. So yeah, I definitely think it was foreshadowing that they kind of got a bit too comfortable and thought that they could just steamroll, which is never going to be the case.
Matthew, you said no?
No, it was good storytelling. I think it was. I said like yeah, like it. That's the unfortunate thing, and it's just being honest. Like I don't feel like the show had put in the work yet for me to really feel that emotional attachment where I cared either way what happened to the tribes at this point. I want to be clear about that. I don't think that's I really like the castaways, and I don't think I just think the energy wasn't there when it came to the actual edited episode. And I will say that I did like that this storytelling, they use this as a way to push the story forward, where you could kind of watching it back see, oh, look at this really beautiful build from confident to the bottom. So that was really cool to see.
And then we get on to the reward challenge. I won't I put it as no, I'm not gonna say that. What I titled it as, I titled it as ball fighting, because they were but I didn't use ball wrestling is what I said because everyone's like, now you have to say it. I called it the ball wrestling challenge because they were fighting over a ball in mud and stuff like that. They were playing for fishing gear. There was some really cool. I enjoyed these types of challenges too. It's ones that we don't really see in the US because it's a little bit more physical. There is a risk of someone getting injured. But there was some really cool battles here. Doug versus Nathan was really fun to watch. We got some oiled up castaways as they used the baby oil or whatever they were using. Well, Ollie, what's wrong?
I didn't need to see it. I knew exactly the editing that was going on there, but you know when you're just like,
they slowed it down too, didn't they?
Yes.
Like Joel was playing in on it. They knew what they were doing. And then we see Lenina win again, getting the fishing gear. Matthew, at this point, was it heartbreaking just to see Lenina beat Calaton again because Calaton, they were so confident, and I think it came down to, especially when Nathan went up. Doug was the one who said, let me try him. I'm going to get him. And I think it was shocking for them to see their big powerhouse get taken down by Doug in this like one-on-one battle.
Yeah. I mean, well, Calaton did not leave empty-handed. They did get a piece of pepper. So they're not that far off. But yeah, I thought the Nathan versus Doug round was so like, what a great finale to the challenge. Like that was awesome.
Yeah.
Here's the thing though. I know from our cast assessment, Doug was a person who said like, I wanted to find a shield and I wanted to create a shield. So I was almost expecting him to put in a lot of effort with Nathan, right? And then maybe throw it, right? Make sure that Nathan is still seen as the stronger. I thought that would have been interesting, but I know it was the last round and it kind of came down to it. But it was exciting. Oh, when the back slam happened.
Thank you for saying that. That looked so painful. And I don't know if anyone saw Survivor South Africa Return of the Outcast, but they had a similar challenge to this where they were kind of wrestling in the mud and someone did that back slam, and the person who was on the bottom of that, the receiving end, actually got injured. Like she broke ribs because of that. And so I was having flashbacks to that. And I was like, oh my, I know that had to hurt.
Yeah. I mean, this whole thing looked painful from the start, from sliding, skidding across the sand to begin with. It was like, it's not one that I would like to do. But like, I'm just admitting it now. It's a little too physical for me. I think we got to see so many people shine in this challenge, so that was really special. What I thought was really, really cool too. Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
so are you guys overall a fan of these types of challenges, or you think Survivor should steer away from them?
I like this challenge
if they can do it safely. Sure.
Yeah, I think it is a really good challenge. There were two things for me that really stood out from this challenge when they were doing it. Number one, I loved that they did Hannah versus Lawrence.
Yes.
I don't know. I really liked that because I was like, do you know what? Yes.
It's because I thought it's man versus man, woman versus woman. And even like, sorry to cut you off, but even Lawrence went up to Hannah and said, wow, like good effort, because Hannah was putting in a good fight against Lawrence.
Yeah, and it's this thing of, because it's what we are striving for now in our society of equality. Perfect example. And to me, if anyone would sit there and be like, that wasn't fair for Hannah, they both were like, no, we'll go against each other and it's fine. And then also I'll be like, but this is the equality we want. Anyways.
If it was me versus Hannah, I'm telling you right now, Hannah would win. Like there's a lot of women in this show that would beat me. And that's why I love stuff like that, because I love that. I hate the assumption it has to be man versus man, woman or versus woman, or it won't be fair. Because there are women out there that would beast the competition and absolutely beat a man. Like they can do that.
Exactly. And the one other thing I remembered about this challenge, which I didn't really like, was I think you know exactly what. It was kicking sand and taunting. To me, that you're a boxer. You know who I'm addressing. You're a boxer. You know sportsmanship. That was just rude.
Who was Lee going up against?
Shy. I like. It was. Do you know what? It wasn't like I can kind of forgive the kicking the sand because like it's
excitement.
It's a tactic, yeah, to try and get it. It was the taunting. It was him standing there being like, "Come on, then." I was like, "No." I would have had to have held my mouth because I would have been there. I would have said something to Lee as he was walking back, even if I wasn't competing. I would have started an argument because I would have been like, "No, that's you, be it." Because I'm trying not to swear. I'm trying so hard not to swear, but literally in my notes, and I will show you guys at the end what I actually called him. But it really irked me because I was like, that's not what this is about. Like, you know, like us Brits actually have a level of sportsmanship. Like we can be like, at the end of the day, it's all good. You didn't show that. So that it just irked me.
It's going to be interesting to see if it carries on throughout the entire season. If this is something that comes back on Lee. You brought it up earlier, Matthew. How does he know that you need votes at the end? I mean, if this comes back, if Lee makes it to the end and Shy's sitting on the jury, that could literally brought up, like, why should I give you my vote when you couldn't even show me the respect when we were in the second challenge of the show?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry,
Well,
I was just going to say there's been a pattern. It's been we saw it in episode 1 and we saw it in episode 2. So
I think with Lee also, obviously very much so making a spectacle for his tribe who were like his audience in that moment. And the thing is I still think that his tribe, even though they're celebrating because they got a point for this and they're closer to the reward, I still think seeing this type of poor sportsmanship will come back into play, even though he won a point for the tribe. Like, I still think that they'll remember it or have different feelings towards it. I mean, we've talked to so many Survivor castaways over the years, and I think something that we all have come to realize is that there's the little things, right? Not big enough to make it into the episode, but still the things, the personal connections that people notice about each other that influences how we feel about others. And I want to talk about Rachel versus Ren for a second. And I thought this was the exact opposite of Lee versus Shy, where Rachel, very similar thing happened, got the lead on Ren very early on. I don't even think they had to do any physical contact. And Rachel ran, put the ball where it needed to go in the goal, got the point and moved on. And I thought like that's all that needed to happen.
Yeah.
I will say with Lee, good TV, you know, like entertaining. But it was also like I felt horribly for Shy, just as, you know, empathy wise. Like it I would have been embarrassed if I was in Shy's position. And yeah, not great to
not the
like
brightest moment. No, not the greatest. And I hope Lee in the moment, it was just adrenaline based and he was just feeling really good. And I hope we don't continue to see this, because I definitely don't want to say that Lee is a bad person whatsoever. No. And like these moments can happen. There's been times where I'm playing basketball with my friends and I get a little cocky and I do, you know, something like this. I don't mean it. It's just in the spur of the moment. So, but it is going to be interesting to see throughout if this is something that continues, the taunting, especially after they lose the immunity challenge, which we will get to in a couple minutes. Will the taunting kind of come down? Because that's something I feel like we've seen in Survivor UK that we don't see as much in Survivor Australia or Survivor US. It's been from both tribes nonstop talking smack to each other during these challenges. So it's going to be interesting. And also in other renditions of Survivor, it has become less about tribe strength going into like a merge or something. And I know I'm talking way in the future, but as of now, it looks like these tribes are very big on this is our tribe, this is our family. And that could be because you know, these people who went out there, you guys mentioned it during the cast assessment. There's a lot of these people who haven't watched Survivor or just watched a couple of seasons and they don't know the grand schemes of how it could play out. So that, you know, we saw this early on in Survivor US where it was tribe heavy. It was tribe strong to the point where CBS broke it into 3 tribes and hoped that less people would mean, you know, less about tribe strength. So it's going to be interesting to see throughout the entire season if they really stay tribe strong, because that's how it looks as of now. What I do like about episode 2 here is there was a lot more strategy and people bonding and, you know, game talk. Some of the notes I have here, we saw Hannah and Christopher talking. They were bonding a little bit. But then Christopher states we get a package with him saying he wants to work with Ashley. And then we see a group of 4 for Lenina play out, which is Ren, Doug, Christopher, and Ashley starting to make this alliance that they want to focus on. And it's interesting. Sorry, I didn't write all the names down, but Doug is kind of playing this middle because on the other hand, he's got, help me out a little bit. He's got Lee, he's got Sabs, Peg leg. Yeah. So Doug is, who is the other one?
Hannah.
Yes. Thank you. So it's kind of like split down the middle, and Doug is kind of in this position where he can kind of choose which side, which alliance he wants to work with. All of this, by the way, I'll just put it out there where while Calaton is talking about how they're starting to smell. I just thought it was amazing to see one tribe really heavy in the strategy talk. And then Calaton's like, do you guys smell these clothes? They smell horrific. And that's the question I've always had is like, how bad does it smell on that island? But what stood out to you guys during this like time before the immunity challenge where they are talking strategy and stuff? Matthew, go ahead.
I mean, nothing but else besides what you mentioned. I think the big takeaway was seeing Christopher again, sort of get that information from Hannah. Also, he like avoided giving Hannah a name and somehow was able to bring it back to the group that you mentioned as well. I like seeing the divide start to happen again. It was great, sort of also knowing how the episode plays out. Like, I think that was the big takeaway. And thank you to Nuke for that wonderful tutorial about boiling clothing. Very important. And it was interesting to hear Leilani also mention in a confessional. Leilani said that she feels that her team has a better chance of winning when it's a group challenge as opposed to the individual. That was a response to the reward, and we see that play out.
Yeah.
Ollie, anything to add?
Yeah, no, I kind of agree with everything. I love the juxtaposition of you've got like these people, like you've got Lenina making all these alliances, and then you cut straight to Calaton, and Tanuki's just there, like balling her clothes. I was like, love it.
This is Survivor.
I love it. To me, that felt really genuine, and it just felt like one of those kind of human moments, which I do enjoy. I agree. I do feel like we definitely saw with Lenina, we did see a lot of kind of strategy. And to me, this is one of the things that really confused me. We saw it really heavy with Christopher, but he only got this episode. He only got 2 confessionals. The entire game, he's only had. So I'm just going to get this up. He's only had 3 confessionals in total in the first 2 episodes, and he's actually had the least to talk. First episode, he only spoke for 5 seconds in his confessional, and the second time was 14. So it's really interesting to see that, you know, they are showing a lot of Christopher being a really strong social player and a strategic player. But he's had, like, in terms of confessionals and, like, so we can understand his game, we're not really seeing it. We're seeing loads of screen time, but not a lot of confessional time. I do like that group. I like when it was Ashley, Christopher, Doug, and Ren. I really liked that 4. I think that would be a 4 I really liked. I know we have Doug in the middle. I would actually put Ren in the middle as well. I think they're kind of in the middle as well, because Ren is, like, when it comes to who the super fan of the show is, that's Ren. Ren is like the super fan who's watched the seasons and know what's happening. So I think they are very much like, yes, this is my alliance, but I also want to see what's going on both sides. So I that's what I'll be interested to see moving forward with them. And again, like Matt said, I liked kind of Leilani's confessional because, again, it was a nice little editing segue into what was going to happen.
Do you guys believe the pacing of episode 2 was a little bit better than the pacing in episode 1? Because I feel like in episode 1, just from a technical side of things, the pacing, something felt off. It felt like there's certain cuts that just didn't flow like it usually does in a normal Survivor episode. And I kind of wrote it off. I was like, you know what? This is a new production company. They're testing stuff out. So I'm going to be very patient with them. But it already, to me at least, felt like episode 2 just flowed better in terms of how a Survivor episode usually feels.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think also the fact that with the episode 1, which we just saw, with episode 1, getting some of those storylines that like snuck their way into episode 2. I'm thinking of Ashley's hand. I'm thinking of the reactions to Sabrina. Right. I think like those things played really nicely and sort of gave us a nice launching point into this episode.
Yeah.
And then we get on to the immunity challenge. Can Calaton finally win? And the answer is yes, because we see Rach and Sabs really struggle untying knots, which I have all the respect to them, because I feel like I know I would get out on Survivor and there would be like, they make not untying look super easy, where if I put my headphones in my pocket for 20 seconds, it takes me like 2 hours to untie them. So I just know it would take me forever to get these knots, especially doing that underwater. I know some new fans might be watching and being like, oh, come on. Like, why can't they do it? Go tie a knot in the swimming pool and then go underwater and untie that knot. Like, I just think it'd be super, super difficult to do. I did like this challenge. I thought this was a really fun challenge. I feel like I'm trying to think back to all the challenges. No, I guess not. I was about to say they've been really water, like rafty heavy on the challenges so far. 2 out of 4. It's nothing crazy. But do we like this challenge, guys? And what do we think of the outcome here?
I really liked this challenge. I think this challenge would have been better suited as the first challenge compared to when the two challenges we saw. I definitely feel like Rach and Sab panicked, which is what cost them. I actually want to commend Tanuke and Matthew, because not you, Matthew, the one that's playing. Because I think their strategy of going for the furthest one was smart, because at the end of the day, the knots are going to be tricky anyway. And if they're on par with each other, Lenena was going to go for the furthest one last. So then that gave them a little bit of an advantage, because they were like, right, we haven't got as far to travel. So I thought that was really good strategy. And I'm not going to lie, that ending, Calaton, I was sitting there being like, do not do this.
I thought they were going to give it up.
I was like, do not screw this up. I was like, don't do it like you did at the first one.
I also don't want to be like the safety guy here, but I was nervous about that when they're like, you have to get on each other's shoulders and build this tower up. And I'm like, this tower could collapse at any second. I understand they weren't like heavy pieces of wood or anything like that. They were just things of bamboo, but like, it still wouldn't feel good if it collapsed back on the person holding you up on their shoulders. I don't know. I was nervous about that, but it was a super exciting ending. And I got to agree with you, Ollie. I really, really, really thought Calaton was going to give up this lead that they had. And I was already thinking like, oh, who are they going to blame it on or something? Yeah. Because like, this is a team thing at this point, but they did end up pulling out the win. We head into the strategy time. We do see Doug and Rin playing the middle. Those two have a really, really good relationship. And it looks like it's going to be Ashley or Sabs, mainly because Sabs, because of the challenge, which I thought it was, Rach's name was also being thrown out by Pegleg for being someone who was she was complaining. She was kind of being annoying, but I felt like it was between Ashley or Sabs. And I found it interesting that Sab's name was being thrown out for the challenge when Rachel also struggled. And Sab's whole pitch was, I was struggling and went back because I knew if I stayed out there, I would have wasted more time. And that's what Rach did. She wasted more time. And I thought Sabs had a very compelling argument. Ollie, what do you have to add on to this?
This thing, I understand it and I get it. Sabs did the one thing that I think most like Brits, it is an underlying pet peeve, whether we like it or not. I know it's a big pet peeve for me, and I know if other people, like I've seen it be such a pet peeve for UK Survivor, for UK, like for Brits. Sab apologized on someone else's behalf. She apologized for her and Rach. Brit, I'm saying this now as to Australians, to Americans, don't apologize on a Brit's behalf. We will happily do it ourselves. Like, you don't need to apologize for me. We will get more offended if you've apologized for us, because it's like, well, we're happy to do that, because it comes across like we weren't going to do it in the first place. So I think that was a big, obviously Sabs was already kind of in the hot seat because of her enthusiasm. But I do think kind of Sabs going, I'm so sorry for me and Rach. It kind of just, it made Rach go, no. You're good. So I think that was a really big issue.
I think I remember her saying, I thought I did good in the challenge. I was trying my best.
She said she gave it her all, and I know, but I don't think she said it, or we didn't see a conversation with Rach going to Sabrina saying this, you shouldn't have apologized on my behalf. We knew that was a part of Sabrina's strategy, though, too, right? Was to make sure that Rach's name was in the conversation of people who cost them the challenge, and I agree. I think this might be. I think it was the wrong approach to comment on it. I think there was a different way to, instead of apologizing on behalf of the two of them. And I completely saw where Rach was coming from with it.
Yeah. And I was just going to say, I think if Sab just apologized for herself, it would have been smarter, because then it would have given Rach the chance to apologize. And then if she didn't, and then went, well, I think I did a good job, that's where I think people would have gone, come on now, Rach. Like, that's where it would have been a detriment to Rach. The fact that she did apologize on behalf, I think it didn't do Sab any kind of strategic favors, which is what I was kind of upset for Sabs, because I think Sabs really did have a good case, but apologizing didn't help.
And Ashley's name was being brought up because of her hand injury that we were talking about, which I found interesting. Would you guys be that concerned? They're focusing on tribe strength here, but would you be that concerned over just like what we can assume? Obviously, we really didn't get a good look at her hand, but what we can assume is just a rope burn or something like that. She did sit out the challenge as well because of her injury. But I thought that was interesting, because we've seen injuries in the past be brought up as a reason that maybe we should vote this person out to keep the tribe strong. I just don't see a hand injury really being that big of an issue in team challenges.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't seen what it is, right? So there's that mystery about it, right? Like, we just know there's an injury to Ashley's hand. I thought Ashley did a really good job at reminding her tribe, I got this injury for the tribe. And I thought that was exactly what she needed to do. I thought she could have done it more, but it didn't matter. But I think it was, because we heard a couple of people, I know Lee and Pegleg are coming into my mind in particular, who, tribe strength. We want to keep people who are giving it their all. Ashley's not able to give it her all because of her hand injury. And to have Ashley be like, I gave it my all, which gave me my hand injury. You know, it was good on her to do that.
Yeah, I do think Ashley did a really good job of kind of mitigating people's, I don't want to say hypocrisies, that's not the word, I'm trying to think of the right word, but she was basically having to defend herself. And then I think she was with the other side, because it was very clear that there were two sides. With the other side, they were going to target Ashley and then give all these reasons. And I think Ashley did a really good job of going, okay, but here's the reason why that's not a reason. Here's the reason why that's not a reason. And again, I think that's what helped her. Sadly, they were always going to gun for her anyway. But I think it helped that she kind of got to Doug and Ren first. I think that was her key. The fact that she was able to solidify kind of something with Doug and Ren and kind of be like, look, we are together. Like, you've got my back, helped her a lot.
All of this led up to a the first tribal council that we got was kind of run of the mill. Richard went home. This one, it was a very entertaining tribal council. The injury got brought up. There were some sparks going on between the castaways, not in a good way. There was some hashings coming out. And then it led to a 3-2-2 vote, which sent Sabs home. Were you guys shocked about how this tribal played out and how close it really was? Because going into tribal council, I didn't think that while Rachel's name was being thrown out, I didn't think she would receive any votes. I thought it was going to be between Sabs and Ashley. And overall, I did think Sabs was going to be the one who ended up going home.
Yeah, I have no idea why the vote split between Rach and Ashley. I was really confused by that. I'm not sure when we talked to Sabs what she had to say about that sort of strategy, but it was only it was kind of, I didn't understand what was happening there. We hadn't had the, if anyone has a hidden immunity idol, now would be the time to play it yet. We saw in the preview for next episodes that it looks like an idol is coming into the game. I don't know if they were trying to prepare for the possibility of an idol. I was so confused why the votes weren't just on one person.
Do you know what? I think it was because Ren and Doug were in the middle. I think Sab's side thought, okay, we have a majority of 6, so let's just split the votes. That's the only conclusion I can come to. But I do want to point out the caginess. It was cagey. And once again, I'm not going to say everyone's going to think I hate him. I don't. I love to hate him. But Lee inserted himself.
We need a good villain on a season of Survivor.
We do.
Yeah.
And it's clear me and him are going to be rivals when we play All Stars. It's fine. No, but it was just cagey between kind of Sabs, Rach, Lee, and I think Pegleg kind of got in there as well. So that was fun because you kind of were like, what's going to happen? Like, who's going to say what? Is there any big arguments? Obviously, it was kind of just a bit cagey, but to me, that was very much Survivor. I did also kind of enjoy how awkward Doug looked. Like, you could tell Doug was uncomfortable. Like, he was hating every moment of it because he was like, I'm about to have to blindside one of these people. So that was fun. But yeah, I think, to be fair, I actually wasn't sure what was going to happen because I think the editing did do a good job of kind of clouding this mystery on what actually was going to happen. I think it wasn't until I saw a vote for Rach and a vote for Ashley, I was like, oh, Sabs is gone. I was like, Sabs has gone, sadly. And I did feel bad because I felt like she did have a lot more to bring.
Yeah, it was just really weird that they ended up splitting the vote. I apologize for my little kitten here that's just making me look like a crazy cat man, but she'll get older. She'll get older with age and less jumpy. But yeah, it was very weird to see that the vote split.
I'm sorry, you said she'll get older with age. I was like, yeah.
My mind, if you guys can't tell, but my mind is like half focusing on keeping her off camera so it's not a distraction while like listening, while also coming up with the response and figuring out where we're going next. Multitasking, not my best thing. But no, it was definitely interesting to see how the votes played out. And I'm very excited to see heading into the next episode where this leaves Lanina, if this is going to kind of mellow them out in terms of we lost, like this is a real thing. We just had to vote someone off. And now that tribe lines are kind of split, where I felt like the first couple episodes, even when Calaton went to tribal, it was pretty much all together. Tribe strong, let's vote out Richard. And now I feel like we finally are going to get, okay, this person lied to me because they said they were going to vote this way. So I feel like in the grand scheme of things, and we've pretty much covered everything here, the first 2 episodes were very run-of-the-mill. This is Survivor. These challenges are going to happen. There's going to be some rewards. And I think even with the next time on Survivor when he holds up that immunity amulet. Good job, art department. It's not just like a coconut. I think that is already teasing. Look, this weekend you guys learned what Survivor is in general. Next weekend we are going to start the hardcore strategy and the idols and the Survivor that most people who've already seen the show know about. So for the super fans, I think this week might have been a little dull, but I think moving forward, it's going to be even better.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything else you guys have to say to add on any opinions you have about how this weekend played out?
I'm just excited for Survivor UK. That's all.
Oh,
I trust. Yeah. I mean, I trust that Survivor UK will find its pace. I hope that the viewers, that's the thing. We have to see the viewership numbers. I hope viewers stick around for it. Let's cheer on these castaways as they go about this journey.
Yeah.
And I think that with some tailoring, it could be top tier.
And
So-
I also, sorry, just with the viewership, I think they started in a weekend that they had a lot to compete with. So I think going into next week, especially with the viewership, where there isn't anything major that, you know, people can rival it with. I think as long as people stick to it, and I think if the true people who have been fans, I'm trying to explain this right. UK fans that have been a fan of Survivor before it came back, if they can get people to be like, just stick around, it will get there. I think that's how it will help, because I'm definitely telling everyone I know, get there. It's getting there. Episode 2.
And definitely, I mean, being in contact with the BBC network over in the UK, like they watch our recaps, watch the interviews. They're going to see you guys not on top of the viewership numbers. They're going to see that you guys really are into Survivor UK. And what do we all want? We all want more Survivor UK. We want there to be a second season that Ollie can go and compete on. We want there to be Survivor UK. We know we want there to be Survivor UK All-Stars. This is a series that we don't want to lose, especially we just lost Survivor South Africa. It's nice that Survivor UK is coming right in, and we still have, you know, we all want as much Survivor content as possible. So definitely tune into these recaps and the interviews and stuff. We got some good stuff planned for you. Other than that, I felt like it was a really, really good weekend. Make sure to tune into our Survivor US coverage. I'm literally going straight from here to our bracketology show, our fantasy outlook. I'll help you set your teams. We got Survivor 45 this evening. You can catch Matthew and Ollie on Got Something For You on Sundays at 2 p.m. Eastern time. That is, correct me if I'm wrong. What is that UK
correct.
time?
That will be, because the clocks will go back, it will be 7 p.m.
7 p.m. Yeah, that's what I was saying. Yeah, 7 p.m. UK time. You can also catch Matthew on Big Brother now. Matthew, anything big happening there? You have the eviction tomorrow. I know it's an eviction I believe a lot of us don't want to see.
Oh.
We're going to have the eviction tomorrow, and then let's wrap up this season quickly.
Very, very. I agree. The 100 days has been a bit long. Well, thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time.